Hello, this is Kade, and we have a gold rush. Land claims are being sold in Star Citizen. All while the right to claim a piece of land. So not the actual land is being sold right now, just the right that allow you to claim a piece of land within UEE controlled space, which means that you're likely also going to be paying taxes over the land and all of that. And to say that this subject has stirred the community a little bit would be very accurate. Because it has. And I can quite understand why, because there's a reason I'm only really talking about this almost a day later now, because I really had to think about this one. It's a very difficult subject and it's very two-minded. Because on one side I really love the whole idea behind it. And I'm not talking about the sale, but just the whole idea of the land claims, how it's going to work, what's going to do for the game, what's going to do for the universe that we're going to inhabit within the game. And I think it's going to be absolutely great. That said, however, the sale was, initially my reaction was really like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. This is a really bad idea. That was my initial reaction after watching the ITV and after reading through the Q&A. I was like, this is a really bad idea. Then I went to discuss it with people that I know. I watched some other people's their opinions on that, and started to think about it more and like sleep a night over it, go through the day of work and go at it again, with a clear mind. So where I'm standing right now is I'm still a little bit dubious about selling these land claims, but after considering it carefully, I think that they're really a relatively minor impact. And the reason is that the process of earning the credits to buy a land claim in-game will likely be a very marginal portion of the whole system in the end, because you can have the right to claim a piece of land, but the real challenge is finding the right piece of land. And I think that the surveying and stuff like that will take a lot of time, and especially when you start looking for minerals and other natural resources, it's going to be quite a laborious and time-consuming process. Of course, the nice real estates with the views are going to be gone a little bit quicker, and if you're after one of these licenses might give you a edge going into that. That said, we don't really know when it's going to be implemented, how it's going to be implemented, because maybe it will be implemented when the game was already running a while, so people have had the time to save up. We just don't know. Personally, because I own a Pioneer, I have a estate land claim that comes with that, and that's perfectly fine for me, because, well, the only thing I would use that for is likely find a really nice spot for my vacation home, and maybe if the funds free up, build it out into a resort. Something along those lines seems quite interesting to me. And it also means that an estate claim is more than enough space. Because that's one thing you have to also encounter, is the amount of land that you can claim with these licenses is absolutely enormous. And the value to it is amazing. Like, if you can just find a really nice spot because you're needing to get a resort going, or maybe a farmer going, so the amount of research you need is less intensive than, say, finding minerals, perhaps. Who knows? Getting 64 square kilometers of land for $100 is really cheap, especially when you compare it to, say, a Gladius, which is $90, a little bit cheaper. But let's take the Gladius and Saber in here, and let's take some real-life comparisons. Let's take an F-16 and an F-35. I think that's fairly fair. F-16 to the Gladius and F-35 to the Saber. And F-16 is about 70 million in today's money, if you get the better versions. And the F-35 comes in about 170 million, I believe. That's a lot of money, of course. But how much would it cost to buy that amount of land? Well, that of course really depends where you live. Where I live, let's say farmland is quite expensive. If you're going to be buying farmland, you're can easily expect to pay 50,000 euros an acre. So with there being a total of 100 acres in a square kilometer, so 6,400 acres, the whole price sum comes down to 320 million in land value for that 64 square kilometer plot, which was your estate. And if I'm looking at comparing that to the fighters back, like that's, you know, a lot more than a single F-35 is. While in game, the land claim is quite a bit cheaper than a Sabre would be. So value-wise, it seems like a really good deal, but of course we don't know what else will really be needed in order to get the things going. Because, you know, if you want to start farmlands, you likely need to cultivate the grounds and things like that. If you want to mine things, you need to build up your industrial equipment for that. And if you want to make a resort, you need to start building that. So the majority of the costs is not going to be in the license. The majority of the cost is just going into actually putting the ground to use. Now, make no mistake, there's of course a risk that, you know, people will mass buy these parcels and start claiming a lot of land that could be interesting and then trying to sell it on at a really high profit. But there are two things to keep in mind with that. Number one, the amount of land that's available, and of course only a small fraction of that is going to be high value land. But also when I look at the sales numbers for last day with the consolidated outland sale and these land claims, if I subtract the sales from the pioneers from what's there, and I'm looking at those land claims, like about 4,000 or something perhaps have been bought, and considering they are cash only, that means there are no more than, at the time of this recording, there will be no more than 5,000 estate claims sold. And considering that over the whole majority of everything, and even if we're adding the claims that come with the pioneers, and now even say it's going to be extreme and we're going to see a few more sales. I'm not sure how long the sale will go on for these claims, but say maybe 10,000 claims will be sold. If you look at the whole picture, that's an absolutely minute part of what's going to be available. And I think that's combined with the fact that the costs are going to be elsewhere and that the time investments are going to primarily elsewhere, I'm reasonably fine with it. So I kind of changed my mind, and first I was like, this is a really stupid idea, waiting on it, thinking about it, doing some of your research, talking to other people. I think that's fine. That's not going to be an issue. Question, of course, for yourself, like, are you going to need these land claims? Well, if you're going to do something with them, it can be a nice little head start, but I think it's a very low priority purchase for most people, considering the amount of investment you will need in order to make that land claim, produce anything for you. And as I said, if it's going to be within UAE space, I very much assume it will be taxed. So even if you're not using the land, you're going to pay the UAE taxes because you own that land. Just like in real life, you tend to pay taxes over land that you own. So those are my thoughts on the whole land claims. I hope it's been informative and adding to the wider discussion on this. As always, if you got your own opinions, feel free to share them in the comment section. I do enjoy hearing more people's feedback and opinion on them, and I try to reply to a lot of them, of course. At some point I'm going to say, okay, enough for now. And as always, of course, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.